So I thought I'd start with a little bit of world-class animation. That's how everyone waves, right? Um, so as Christina said, I'm experienced director at Elephants Can Dance. So that means focus on UX, CX, visual design, and we do that with big clients. So it's great to be able to be here and give a bit of my opinion of the industry, hopefully help you with your portfolios, and yeah, really give you some insight that I think that a lot of people might sugarcoat, and I'm not here to sugarcoat it. So I really hope that that I can provide some value. So first, a few things to know about me. I've reviewed a lot of portfolios. I'm a hiring manager, so I do that quite a lot. I've mentored a lot of designers. So I really know what it's like from that entry level, trying to get your foot in the market, and how to kind of help that career grow, and at different steps, what you need in a portfolio to be able to make that happen. The other thing is, throughout my entire career, I've spent a lot of time doing my own custom portfolios. So this is through from back in the days where it was like flash animation. So creating very uncool, let's call it, portfolios back in the day, and through to what we see now, which is a lot slicker. The portfolios that we see today are a lot cleaner. The design has happened that way. It's very much changed. So less crazy animation, less misty smoke and all that sort of stuff, and rolling clouds. And I know it sounds really tacky, but it was cool back then, trust me. And coming at this from a design director side of things, I mean, I like good design. So what I'm looking for in a portfolio is good quality design. Now, that doesn't mean that it has to be over the top, but it has to be very considered. The alignment has to be there, the balance on the page with the typography, the way you've constructed your case studies. So that's just the way that I come about it. There's a lot of people that might come from different industries and they don't put such a high value on the design aspect of your portfolio. They might be a lot more about the content. But I think just as humans, we're quite judgy in the way that we're just constructed. So I think that even if people are saying that you don't need this and you don't need that, it's still an opportunity to have that and stand out, and especially within this saturated market. So I think that that's the main thing that I kind of want to stamp home, is that some people are giving you very sugar-coated advice, and that's not going to help you in a very difficult market. So, which leads me to my next point, which is just, this is the touch point. This is your chance. You can craft the world's best cover letter, and so could the next person and the next person, but the chances of going like and standing out above the others with a cover letter is nothing compared to a portfolio. And so you don't necessarily need a custom built portfolio, but is that not giving you your best chance to stand out in a sea of hundreds? So I'm going to kind of leave it with you with that one. Is you could have a Behance, you could have a Notion, and then someone's got a premium template and they've constructed it that way, and you put all three together. It's very hard to just keep them all at an even keel. And I think that just, yeah, I think first impressions is you just need to capture, you need to captivate in this space. And there's a few points that I'll get to. So what makes a great portfolio? And I mean, there's definitely a lot of aspects to it. Yes, your case studies, your critical thinking, all the narrative around that does. But to me, it's about thinking about the whole thing as an artifact. So every single part of your portfolio is essentially an area that you're getting judged on. And I think that when you do go with something custom or some sort of way that you're able to showcase your work in the best light possible, a portfolio like that is doing a lot of the heavy lifting, so something predefined. But if you want to go even further, then you go custom, but that is not necessarily what you need to do. So I just wanted to start with a few of these sorts of portfolios, and like instantly this is something that it's like, wow, that's really nicely put together. It's a beautiful portfolio. All the pieces of work inside it just get to breathe nicely. So the portfolio is a vessel rather than over accommodating. And you can see this nice sticky navigation on the left-hand side. Here's another example of a nice portfolio that has a horizontal scroll, which instantly just kind of gets your attention because you're not used to seeing that as much. It's a nice considered brand. Everything is really well put together. So look, these are lovely portfolios. There's no denying that. But when we're talking about a great portfolio, it's not just about the structure of it. It's not just about the complexity of the build and all those sorts of considerations. You could have a very simple design from a structural point of view, but everything has been beautifully put together in regards to the balance itself. So when we're talking about the typography hierarchy, your little narrative, the way that you've constructed your case studies. So yes, good design is important, but good design does not mean that it has to be complicated design. So I've been in this industry for quite some time. I've had a lot of experience. I've spent my entire career building my own portfolios, getting judged, getting rejected, all this. Like everyone has been through the stuff that people are facing at the moment. And through that, I've learned some things that I think are very important for me. And this is coming from if I was to hire someone at Elephants Can Dance, these are the sorts of things that I think are very important when we're talking about what makes a good portfolio. So the first one for me is first impression. And once someone has made up their mind, it's very hard to change it. And my criteria may be a bit more brutal than others, but it's about 15 seconds that you've got until I'll dig further in. So if I haven't seen something that has wanted me to go further in 15 seconds, I'm on to the next one. Yes, that's a harsh number, but I know exactly what I'm looking for. I can tell who has put in that sort of effort, who understands design, who understands hierarchy, who has put that additional piece of work in, who's created their own little brand architecture, their own brand identity. Like all these things are a little judgment criteria, and you may have one little mistake in the portfolio, and that's completely fine. But if you start to see more and more and more, then that criteria of what you think of that person and their ability and their attention to detail, it's all diminished in that space. So I think that make sure at the very least that your homepage is the most put together, that you have spent the most time being super critical on, yes, I've completed my portfolio, but now I'm just going to put it over here and I'm going to have a think about it. And I'm going to go and seek some more inspiration. And if you're not getting the callbacks and stuff, go back to your portfolio. Yeah, so I think that first impression is a killer in a market. So let's say I put out some positions for junior designers at Elephants Can Dance recently. Getting 80 portfolios to review in that space. And that's without like me hiring on Seek or anything like that. That's just putting out a LinkedIn post, which is the way that I try to get the people that are going to be the most keen. But in that space, how am I going to spend my time reviewing 80 portfolios if I'm going to spend an hour assessing each one? It's just not going to happen due to all the other considerations. So you just need to kind of think about that people are time poor who are doing this role, who are looking for these designers, and they know exactly what they're looking for. Which leads me to my second one. So when we're talking about portfolios, this is the most common thing that I see. I see that people do academies. So they boot camps, I think they might be called over there, but essentially they go to do these constructive boot camps. They get to work on a few different clients and build up a few different case studies. But the amount of people that I see that have those 2 academy projects and then a coming soon badge on the 3rd one, and that's their portfolio, is just mind-boggling. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to create a whole nother case study and another case study. You just need to show that you're doing things that are upskilling. It might be that you got a section that's about creative ideas that you've had. It might be a section about your photography that you do on the side. It might be your daily UI challenges. That's the sort of stuff that we want to see, because as a hiring manager, what you want to see is you want to see passion. And seeing someone that has gone and completed a course and done exactly what was asked of them and nothing more, that's not exactly showing that they're keen and that they understand their spot in the market and that they have to do, that they're working on upskilling, because that's what we want to see when we deal with junior designers. I think we have someone's hand up.
Hi, okay. I'm calling from Manhattan. So I just have a question about projects that have been under NDA agreements. For example,
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. I think we might keep questions to the very end, but I will answer this one. And that's completely fine. So a good way to get around that is a password protected area of your website. And that essentially is how people handle NDAs. So just hand over in your cover letter, say, by the way, I've got these other ones that are password protected. They're not publicly allowed to be shown yet, but here's the password. And we get that quite a lot as well. But I think that's a really good way to handle it.
okay. I have an additional question, but I'll ask it at the end. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries at all. We'll have plenty of time for questions, so I'm happy to answer as many. So yeah, it doesn't have to be additional big bits of investment of work. It just shows that you're tinkering. It shows that you're keen in this industry. And I think that there's a missed opportunity, because that grows out your portfolio, right? It doesn't have to be client work as well, which I'll get to as we get further in as well. So the third one is help me see the real you, and quickly back to the 15 seconds sort of thing. But you want to get your unique value proposition out there as a candidate. You want to, so it's easy to go, I'm Nick, I'm a UX designer and I'm from Sydney. And it's like, and that's it. And if I get 20 people saying just that, I'm like, well, how are you going to fit in culturally in the agency? What crossover skills am I potentially missing? Because I may not make it to your about me section if it's too far away, or if I've already kind of seen one case study and maybe gone, oh, I'm too busy to keep digging into this particular person. But if you can, at a nutshell, have a bit of a hook, it's the same thing on LinkedIn, right? As everyone needs a bit of a hook to be engaged these days. But you could say something like, I'm Nick, I'm passionate about design ever since I was, oh, this is bad, but it's like, I have a passion for photography, art, and I used to be a sound designer. Already you've given so many more things that are unique, and it's like, well, hang on. So if you're a sound designer, you're going to understand complex programs. So you're going to pick up these ones so much easier. So there's a lot in just giving some uniqueness of where you've come from. And yes, if it's an entry-level role, it might just be, I have a passion for fashion and photography. And then it just shows that you're keen in the industry, that you understand composition. If you're passionate about photography, you understand textures and the way to help create that emotive connection through fashion. Like there's so many soft skills that can kind of be transferred by what you put in that hook. So try to make it a bit more descriptive and a bit more uniquely you. So here's an example, and I wanted to put this one in because in a nutshell, like this is a very simple structured portfolio. Like this is not going to win any awards from a portfolio with all the bells and whistles, but everything has been put together in a nice considered way. And I can see that this person is a product designer, that they've had a background in startups and fashion and e-commerce. And instantly I'm like, well, hang on. I know those industries. I know the crossover skills. If you've done anything in startups and e-commerce, then you're going to understand a lot more about metrics. You're going to understand about creating connection with customers. Like there's a lot of crossover skills in just that statement there. And just the way that it's quite a considered brand as well, like the way that this has been put together, even though it's dead simple, it's been nicely put together. There's a few different little embellishments and stuff. So that creates a lot more interest because I mean I've had a lot of background in brand identity work and strategy, and I'm like, well, this person gets design, and then I'll go, well, this might be a template, but I'm going to investigate further and have a chat with this person and see if these are things that are showcasing some potential. And this was actually someone that we hired at Elephants Can Dance. So you don't need the world's best portfolio. This is your look into the industry. This is your chance to get a look for an interview and then showcase all your other amazing ability after that. So number 4 is break the recipe. And if you do the recipe, do it well. So breaking the recipe, it's become very clear that everyone is getting instructed to do the exact same thing in their case studies, the exact same way with the exact same narrative. It started to become quite well documented throughout the community, the UX community, because it's become such an obvious pattern. And so what I think with this one is, how can you break that pattern? Now that you know that there is a pattern there, how can you break it? So what we usually see is someone's put down their problem statements, then they've done information architecture, they've created some personas, and then it's kind of like a checklist. They're just ticking these things off the UX checklist. And it's like, well, hang on, how is this any different? And this is a problem with the industry as well, is that these things are just done as part of UX. And it's like, well, hang on, why am I actually doing this? And how can I bring this from over here all the way through the process? And so thinking deeply about why you did what you did is super important in a case study, and thinking of different ways. So yes, it might have been an academy and you were instructed to do these particular tasks, but go back through and think, well, now that I know more about UX and I've researched, there's actually this great activity over here that I haven't seen many people use at all. And I found that really interesting and really valuable, and go and retrofit it back into your actual case study. You might learn about measurability within UX, and you want to start to create some sort of benchmarking and how do you measure success. You might want to create user stories and job stories that help to be able to put yourself in the shoes. So yes, you got a persona, but then you're creating the different jobs to be done and the different needs of each persona, and tagging them based on which one relates to different personas. So if I ever see things like that, which I don't, by the way, I'm giving you lots of good hints, but if I see things that break the recipe, I'm going to be like, oh, wow, okay, so this is not just by the course, this is by interest in UX, this is by further research and understanding of what I could be doing within this space. So there's a lot in breaking the recipe that I think that I see that as an opportunity, because if we're seeing a recipe and we're seeing a lot of portfolios, then there's your chance. Assess your recipe and then see what you can do to break it. Number 5 is UX your UX. This one is one that's really important to me, and it comes back to the idea that your entire portfolio is a design artifact. So if you and your case studies haven't been put together in a way that looks nice, that is easily digestible, that has long bits of content and messy scribbles, you're getting judged on that being an artifact in itself, especially if it's someone that's come from a design background, because they want to see good design. If I haven't seen a case study that's been put together in a nice, constructed, considered way, then I'm going to just think, well, they don't really get UX, because that's UX in a nutshell, is making something complicated, easy to digest, engaging, bite-sized pieces. So if I'm not seeing that in their own work, yet they're telling me they've done it for another client, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, well, you just kind of need to think, this is UX. Like, we need to make sure that everything is considered. And here's an example, and this isn't the perfect example, but you can see that this has been broken down. We got little bite-sized subtitles to be able to understand the context, just as you're starting to kind of feel like this is getting a bit boring, and then there's actually something interactive. And like I said, this isn't perfect. I'd like to see things that really kind of take the page away from like a nice little bit of animated content. Just something that just stops that feeling of, oh, I'm reading an essay. We don't want to read essays. So if you look at the great agencies and look at their case studies, the way that they do it is that they glide you through. They hit you with a strong narrative at the start, and then they hit you with like great content, and they might have the behind the scenes sort of bit. It might be like a time lapse of them actually working. It might be prototypes, testing prototypes, but everything is content. So it's all about, just as someone's getting a bit bored of it, they'll change it up, and there'll be something really that just lets your eye breathe. So you'll never see long bits of content. You'll see a lot of kind of like 1, 2, 3, 4, these sorts of mechanisms to be able to break it down. Even in this portfolio, I'd love to just see some really big typography sort of call out of something that was really powerful within the actual process. And that would just stop it feeling that rhythm of a pattern. So I start to feel that in this portfolio, and it's like, if you just had a call out block quote, it just lets someone go, oh, okay, I can read that one easily, and I can have a think about that one. And it's almost like a bit of a pause before you get further down the case study. So there's definitely ways to be able to make your portfolio more engaging by treating this as its own little design project, the way that you lay out your case studies. Number 6 is personal projects. So this is one that I think is totally underrated. I love seeing personal projects. That's one of the things that just, it's an opportunity to captivate the hiring manager, because it shows how keen you are. It shows that you're motivated. It shows that this is not just something that, well, I'm doing a course and I'm being instructed to do, or I'm doing it because a client is paying me money. It's like, this is your chance to have an open canvas to fill out your portfolio with stuff that you don't actually have access to those clients. It might be that you're passionate about basketball. This is your chance to create a product within that space. And when you pick something that you actually like, you'll spend more time on it, because it becomes a passion project, because you're engaged. But if it's like, oh, here's a accounting software or something, it's going to be a lot harder for you to be engaged in that personal project. So pick something that has a hook for you to get you that sort of motivation. The thing about this is it fills out your portfolio. It shows that you're keen, and it's fun. It's why you're in this industry to begin with, is because we have a unique opportunity within the design industry to actually enjoy what we do. There's a reason why everyone wants to do it. It's because it's really fun. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of investment, and it does sound a little bit cheesy. It's not that you'll never work a day in your life, but it's like you'll forever be passionate and stimulated by what you can do in design. And that may not be just in the job that you're in at the time. It may just be that when you're at those sorts of moments where you're feeling a bit stagnant, that you're like, well, I'm going to do my own personal project on this, and I'm going to have maximum creativity, and I'm going to make all the rules, and I haven't been dictated by clients' stupid vision or their dissolving of great creativity, or budgets and all those things that come with client work. This is your chance to just be able to go nuts and showcase ability beyond what you get a chance to do with clients. So personal projects are a huge one, and I've actually put in my old portfolio because I only just took this down recently. But the reason I wanted to show this is because to this, like, as far as I had my portfolio, I still had a personal project in there. So this very last one here, this V3, this was a personal project, and did like a app design rollout and a website and digital a brand identity, and it was all within a space where it's like, oh, if only I got to work on a fitness client that I could do this and this and this. And so just created my own one. It's like, I think it's important to still showcase that, because you get further on in your career and it's all about, oh, the clients that you've worked on, this logo and that logo. And it's like, well, actually, it's about creativity, and having a personal project in there just shows that you've still got that fire, that you're still passionate about the industry and what you do. This was also a custom designed portfolio, and to give you a bit of insight, and I don't recommend this for anyone, but I created this from scratch when 8 years ago, and it took me 3 years to launch it. I redesigned it that many times because I wanted an award-winning portfolio at the time, and it's like, it's a labor of love. You got to kind of really embrace that, and yeah, pick the time where you want to do this. I wouldn't recommend it if you're trying to get into the industry yourself. But I think that just thinking about, like, design is a thing about passion, and when you lose that passion is you start to not like your job as much. So use personal projects as an outlet for that. Okay, so I just want to leave on some final thoughts, and then we can get into some Q&A. But I think a big one for me is about reframing how you think about your portfolio. So everyone's like, oh, I've got this task to do. I need to get my portfolio done so that I can get a job. And then it's like, oh, I got a job. And then you leave your portfolio and you never see it again until you need another job and another job. And it's how it kind of is. But if you think about just chipping away, and I think this is also, this is another sort of point, is that I used to think, I'm going to create a portfolio over here and I'm going to get it to 100% over here in one go. Like, that was just always the way that I kind of thought. And it's like, a portfolio is not that. A portfolio is going from here to like 60%. And then it's coming back and it's realizing that, oh, I saw this great thing over here. I'm going to add that to my portfolio. And then you get it to 70%, and then to 80%, and then to 82%. And it's just like shaving away at it. It's gradually chipping away at it and being super critical of where it could improve. And to be super critical, you both need to let go of your ego. You need to be constantly getting inspired by what's out in the industry, and you need to be reading the signs. So if you're not getting any callbacks, there's always something that you could do to improve. And if you're not getting an email back when you send over your portfolio and your cover letter, that's the only touch point they know about you. So it's got nothing to do with the actual interview process. It has to do with the touch points that they actually know about you, like that they've seen. So it might be making sure that your cover letter is in the right way. Some things that I see is that someone's written this great cover letter email, but then there's no portfolio link, that I've got to download their PDF to then get to the portfolio link that's in their resume. It's like, all I want us to do is see that link. Like, that's got to be nice and clear, and then I'll go and see that portfolio. So have a look at that entry point and understand that if they're not finding your portfolio, fix that. If your cover letter is too big and clunky, then you need to kind of assess that. And the rest is your portfolio, right? So you might need to change that up. And I think it's just making sure that you're being critical and going that this could always be better. This portfolio could always improve. And that's very much like falling in love with the process of not just your portfolio, just the process of design, because this is a labor of love sort of industry. This is taking this is going to take up a lot of your life, but if you do it right, it's going to be a good life. So just remember that. Which brings me to my next one, which is a portfolio should never be done. And this is something I just pretty much talked about, but there's always something you can do to make that better. And even when you get further on into your industry, you still need to think about it the same way, because you're up against a different caliber of designer. So it's a different cohort that you still want to be at the top of that. So make sure that your case studies are top notch. Make sure that you're looking at like top agencies and how they're constructed their work. I think that teaches you a lot about how to both create a captivating narrative, but then also how content drives you through a portfolio. And I wanted to finish on this because it is a tough market. It's not fun at the moment, but I want you to all know that everyone's had rejection. I've experienced rejection probably 90% of my design career. And when I was first trying to get a junior role, it was I was going against 250 applicants at the time. That was at the global financial crisis. I was a junior designer going up against midweight designers and losing to midweight designers. So rejection is a part of it. And if you just make sure that you are resilient, you understand that rejection is just a part of what you're doing, but also be critical of how you can improve your portfolio, then you will start to get callbacks. And just keep going through that process, keep cycling that process until you are getting callbacks. Awesome, thank you. Well, that's me, and I hope that was really valuable. If anyone wants to follow me, connect with me on LinkedIn or our agency, Elephants Can Dance. Lots of good stuff happening over there. But yeah, I hope that was really valuable, and look forward to hearing some questions.